Guys, this is Barbie, the Glitter Goblin. I am, oh, where are we? Sunday, February 22nd, no, 23rd, 23rd. And on Thursday of this week, I went to Scrappy Shack and I bought this mold. It is a Prima mold from their Return to Wonderland collection. And it makes all of these gorgeous objects that you see here. Now, on the example that they gave in the packaging, I believe they probably gessoed all their pieces in black and then used something like luster wax on them to make these designs. What I did is I brought them home Thursday night and made them with resin, and then spent a chunk of the day on Friday painting them with colored acrylic paints. I actually don't have those with me. I took them back to the store and they're there as examples right now, but later today I'll try to get some pictures and post them so you could see. But I had a lot of people come up to me and say, how did you do that? How did you paint those? How did you get the color that way? So what I started with, of course, was just a plain white cast resin kitty cat, just the way it comes out of the mold, all shiny. And what I ended up with is something like this, although I have not added the whites to this cat's eye, but you can see it's got multiple layers and colors of fur. And so, you know, people wanted to know how did I do that? And I did the same thing on the mushrooms as well. So this is really about the technique more than it is about the object. And I'm going to go through it with you. All right, so what I have here is one cat that I'm going to leave just the way it came out of the mold. All right, and then my next step is I painted it with white gesso. Now, I'm kind of lazy about my painting. I don't like to waste paint. I don't like to clean up a lot of paint afterwards. So if I'm using just one color and not mixing it, I a lot of times just take it directly out of the tube or directly out of the cap of the tube. But what I want to do here is just paint a little bit of gesso all around this cat so that the paint has something to stick to later and hold it down better. Now, I want a thorough coat, and I want it everywhere, eyeballs, inside of the ears, the whole 9 yards. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to leave a big glop in any one place, because that would add texture. And, you know, if I'm working on something flat like paper, a lot of times one of my goals is to add texture. But this kitty has enough texture, and it's all in all the right spots. So, like, I wouldn't want to leave that glop there to dry. It would be a weird appendage on the kitty. It would be like, why does this thing have 5 feet or whatever? All right, so I'm going around the outside edges. I'm not worried about the back because I'm going to do something with these cats later. I don't know what. Make them into refrigerator magnets or put them in a shadow box or on a canvas as part of a project. Okay. So I'm getting in all these little spaces, and wherever there's extra paint, I'm kind of going back and picking it up. Now, I'm ultimately going to have like green eyes on this cat, so I don't care if this gesso stays 100%. I'm going to poke the poor thing in the eye, hold it down with my pokey tool while I finish this part that's in the middle. That way I don't have to get my fingers all in the paint, and, you know, and it's not really about, oh, I don't want paint on my fingers. Oh, no. It's more about, I don't want to pick it back up off of the cat. But the eye I'm not as concerned about because that's getting a different color later. Now, to save time on the video, what I've done is I have painted one cat in each layer. Okay, so this one already has its gesso on it, and the gesso is dry. And so what I'm going to do now is put on the next layer. And this is, I'm making gray cats here, okay? And so I'm going to start with my medium color. Later on, I'm going to add some black and some white. Now, because this gray is fairly light, I'm not worried about whether I get it in the ears or in the eyeballs. I could try to avoid that if I want to. And when I paint with the black later on, you'll see me try to take some of the black out of there. I'll show you how I do that. But I'm not worried about it with this color because my green is darker. My pink is brighter. They're going to outlast that. Now, I am painting in both directions. I'm painting kind of across here, but I'm also painting down because the cat's got little toenails, and I'm trying to make sure that I get paint down in between all of those grooves. I did the other day make one of these more of an orangey beigey cat, and so my first layer was a peach color. So anyway, I do use 3 layers on all of these. And the way I've described it to people is to get a medium color to start with, and then a darker color to stain with, and a lighter color to dry brush with. All right, so I will leave that one to dry. And then here I have a kitty that already has its gray layer dried. Okay, and you can see there's some white splotches sticking through there, but again, because I'm going to put white on the cat anyway, I'm not super fussed about it. What I am going to do here is use my palette. I'm squirting a little bit of water in. It's just plain old tap water. Let me get the cat back on my paint. And y'all, I'm not too particular about what kind of paints and things I use. This one's from Garden Ridge. I think Garden Ridge has been closed in this area for close to 2 decades. This one is Apple Barrel. It's just what I have. My mom used to paint ceramics. These were hers. She's been gone from this earth about 19 years now. I'm just a little dab of paint, guys, on my paintbrush. I didn't even like squirt out of the bottle. 1, because the squirt function is blocked, and 2, because I just don't even need a whole squirt. All right, and I'm going to just mix a good bit of water. This step is called staining. You're not actually using stain, but you're getting your paint to about the liquid texture of stain. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to move these cats a little bit. I'm going to isolate this guy a little bit and put a little bit of paper towel under him. And I'm just wiping this over. And it's getting into, because it's so liquidy, you can see it's kind of skipping some spots and getting into the grooves. And I'm going to go ahead and paint his eyes and ears because I want to show you what to do if that happens to you accidentally and you haven't meant to do it. And this is a little darker than I would like this layer to be, so I'm going to show you how to fix that as well. All right, so again, I'm going to come in with my pokey tool, hold this little fellow in place. That eye is going to be a completely different color, so if I accidentally pull up some of this black here, I'm again not going to be too upset about it. All right, so that is very dark. I can still see some of the light gray coming through, but that is a good bit darker than I want it to be. So what I'm going to do is a couple little steps here. Move things out of the way. I'm just going to take some of the water and squirt on the kitty, and you can see already that that has lightened up, and some of that water has you know, just pulled the black paint up in places. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take a corner of a paper towel. I've got just a nice sharp crisp corner here, and I'm going to dip it into the kitty cat's ear and take up some of the paint there. And I don't have to worry about this too much. You know, I can use multiple layers of that pink if I want. And if you've ever looked inside of a cat's ear, it's not like it's solid pink. There's some pinky peachy in there, but there's also, you know, a lot of cat hair. And so you still have some cat color around that area. All right, so I've taken a little bit of the darkness away from the eyes and away from the ears just to make those lighter colors show up a little bit better later on. If I had a big pool of paint, like here, I've got this big pool right here in the legs. I can go in and soak up a little bit of that too. I don't want to take away all the color, but maybe a little bit of the dampness just so it dries a little faster. And of course, probably on a lot of these steps, you could use a heat tool and things like that to speed the processes along. But I didn't want to have you listen to me drying things and all that kind of stuff. All right, our next layer is called dry brushing. And normally on a cat that I wanted to kind of be black and white, I might use my white paint, but my white paint is particularly runny. So what I'm going to do instead is use a little bit of this cream color. This one's called Antique White. It's Delta Ceramic Coat. But anything that was like beige, tan, ivory, that would work. And what I'm doing is I'm taking a different paintbrush, not the one I've been using. This one is dry. There's no water on it. This technique is called dry brushing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a paper towel right here and I'm just going to dip, just barely, I actually got too much, so I'm going to put it off on the bottle there. Barely dip my brush into that beige. I'm going to wipe some of it off on my paper towel. And then I'm just really lightly flicking over the kitty cat. And so this is adding, you really can't tell the color here. You might think you can, like, oh, that looks beigey white. But what happens is this, I use this exact same color on my mushrooms. On the red parts that were the cap, I use this color. On the base, some were beige, some were kind of gray. I used this color on the grass that was at the base of some of them. I used this color on the rocks that was on some of them. So it just kind of adds a coat of light more than of color. And again, you could do this with white. You could do it with any kind of beige, cream, ivory. And the other thing I've seen people do, and I've done it myself as well, is just use it with a lighter version of that color. So for example, my mushroom caps, some of them I started off in a medium red for this layer. And then for the staining layer, I used a burgundy. And then for the dry brush layer, I used a lighter red or really dark pink or something like that. All right, so this one, the dry brushing is actually dry already. And so really the dry brushing, I probably could go ahead and just work with this cat and be fine. But I wanted to be 100% sure. So here's this kitty. And what I'm going to do with him is add his little ear color. And I have some pink paint from when I was painting this one earlier. So I'm just going to add a little more water to it just to, it's not that I want this so watery, but it's been sitting here for a while, so I think it's a little dry. And I'm trying to avoid having to mix more paint because I really do have enough here. So I'm getting my wee tiny paintbrush and I'm just gonna get down here in the kitty's ears. And y'all, don't worry about messing up. The medium color of paint cures all kinds of ills, okay? Because it's literally in between all of the things that you're doing. And so, if I accidentally like sneezed or something and smeared pink all over the kitty cat's face, I could come back over that with my medium shade and do some touching up. And I'm just going to do the kitty cat's nose here. I think the mouth has enough texture and there's a little bit of that black stain in there that you could kind of see it. And I'm not going to try, when I try to go over that with black or with a dark color to make the mouth piece stand out more, it ends up being very clownish, I think. And so I really, really don't want to do that. Now, my first cat that I painted on Friday, I did 100% with acrylic paint and, small detail brushes like this. But somebody suggested to me like doing the eyes and ears with a paint pen or a Posca pen. So I did do that with this cat, and I like the color. It's kind of a really bright green, although honestly, I may go back and darken it up a little bit. So I'm just putting a dot or two, and see, I got some on the eyebrow, and that's okay. I'm gonna let that dry a minute, and then I'm gonna go back in with my gray and paint over the green that's on the eyebrow. Okay, so that brings us to this kitty, which is dry, and I'm going to experiment for a second. I haven't tried this yet, but I have a white gel pen. If I can get it to work, it sticks a good bit. And if not, we will go with the white acrylic paint. Okay, white gel pen is not in the mood to play today. All right, so white acrylic paint, like I said, mine's really pretty runny. This is Sargent Art acrylic paint. So, I mean, you can see I have 4 bottles of things here, and not one of them was the same brand or anything. So I just have what I have. I don't even know what it is. Some of it was mine. Some of it was my mother's. Some of it, who knows? All right, so I'm just going to try to get in here and put a little white dot on the kitty's eye. Ooh, a little bigger maybe. All right, so this kitty's a little cross-eyed. I may go back and redo the eyes later, but you could see the basic idea there, okay? I do think I want to go back and get a darker green, but my dark green paint is downstairs, and I'm not going to leave you hanging while I go run after that right now. All right, but let me just show you how easy it is to touch up here. I've put some green on the eyebrows of this poor kitty. I'm not going to reshake my gray paint. It's pretty shaken already. So I'm just taking that detail brush, dip it into a tiny bit of that gray. I'm going to hold the cat a little bit upside down so I can get in there better, and just put a wee bit of that medium gray on top. And I mean, he looks kind of funny right now because the eyebrows are wet and the rest of them's dry. But once that dries out, that should look okay. And if not, I'll go back over it with a touch of black, and I'll just keep going over it with the layers until I get it back to normal. So there we are, guys. That is it. So, kitty, just resin straight out of the mold. Okay. With the white gesso added. And again, if you wanted to do this effect like they showed, where's that same cat? Okay, this effect like they show on the packaging, I probably would use black gesso instead. And of course, clear gesso is going to be fine. Just something that your paint will stick to. And then this is with the light gray just painted on. This is with the black, and this one still is a little damp. The black stained. Okay, so this is not one of those things where you're going to want to sit and watch this dry. Like, I usually paint multiple pieces at the same time, so when one piece is wet, I can go on to the next paint or the next piece. Oops, sorry, I'm going to reach and get that real quick before I spill it all over the place. All right, then the stain was dry, so I've dry brushed it. This one, I've added the pink and the green on the eyes. And there's a little bit much pink on that nose. I'll probably go back with a little bit of gray and grab the top of that nose as well. And then here I've got the white. So this one looks haunted. I'm going to have to go back and fix that. I'm going to make that green darker. Oh, there, that's a little bit better. But I'm going to make that green darker and redo the whites. Anyway, that is how I got the layers and the texture look and the furry look that folks were asking me about yesterday. So I hope this helps. Enjoy and have fun painting your own. Bye-bye.